Hi, my name is Mac, and after living outside the United States for 5 years in the UK, my family and I decided to go back to the US and do a trip around the American South. So for over 30 days, we traveled from Washington, D.C. down to South Carolina, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee. We toured the South, and we were really shocked by some of the things that we saw. Some things were quite the same as we remember, and other things, well, it's really different now. Coming back to the United States after living abroad, we expected familiarity, but what we found was a country in transition. From coast to coast, things have changed, but nowhere is the shift more layered, more complex, more nuanced than the surprises we found in the American South. This is our story. This is our take on how we've seen how things have changed, what's new, what's the same, and what it means for families like ours.
That's what you want on that video right there, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
In today's video, I want to talk about 5 cultural aspects of the American South that really caught my attention. And the first one is history. We started out in Washington, D.C., which has a long and storied history in the United States, but we made our way very quickly down to South Carolina, Charleston to be specific. And Charleston is one of the oldest cities in the United States, with history dating back to 1670. Originally named Charlestown, and named after King Charles II of England. Charleston is a beautiful city, and we had a wonderful time there exploring it with our family, but we were really shocked by the rich history of the area. The United States does catch a bit of flack for not being as old as, say, some European places. I'm in England right now. This is where we live. It's a wonderful place. It has a long and rich history. We have been into windmills that are as old as the entire country of the United States. But people don't tend to think about the United States as having a history dating back into the 1700s and even the 1600s. And Charleston has a long and rich history. We were able to look at some old buildings there, some old homes, and see some historical sites. And I was really shocked myself to find out that Charleston has, well, not just Charleston, but the Low Country in general has such a long and rich and storied history. There are a lot of really nice homes down here. We're near the Battery, south of Broad in Charleston, and this area is magnificent how it looks like San Francisco. But this home is given the Federalist Papers, right? It has that very DC federal look to it. It's massive, it's expansive, and it's clearly very old. One location that we visited that really has an old history is, well, the original name was the Prince William Parish Church. Built between the years 1745 and 1753, we went to see the old Sheldon Church. Now, this church is really special. It burned down during the United States Revolutionary War when the U.S. was fighting the Brits. It was burned again during the U.S. Civil War. And then, of course, it was rebuilt the first time, not rebuilt the second time. We went and we toured, and that location is historic, it is beautiful, a lot of old oak trees growing around it, and it just highlights that the U.S. does have a deep and rich history dating well back into the 1700s. This church was exceedingly well built to survive burning down twice, and still is standing hundreds of years later. It's hard to read, but it says, Mary Bull, the wife of John Bull, much beloved and lamented, died September, I think the 6th, 1771. There was one other point about the old Sheldon Church that I really liked, and they had this hand pump well, which Blair was pumping on the well. But that was really cool because I haven't seen one of those since I was a kid. So it's really great to be able to delve deeper back into American history, and it is really shocking to find those elements of history really where you didn't expect to find them. There's a lot of history in the American South, especially along the coastal regions. I've already talked about how Charleston is an old city in the United States. We've talked a little bit about Washington, D.C., and everybody knows D.C. is old. Charleston is actually older than D.C., was founded before Washington, D.C. But I want to talk about the biological aspect of it, and that is around the Low Country in South Carolina, there are some ancient trees, and there are a lot of them. They're stately and they're statuesque, but the largest and most impressive is the angel oak tree. We heard about this tree while touring the Charleston Tea Gardens, and after we toured the tea gardens and they talked about the old trees there at their gardens, they mentioned, hey, there's another tree that's larger and older, and it's the ancient angel oak tree. So we went to go find it, and there when we pulled up on it, we saw a massive tree with large ponderous limbs reaching down to the ground, running underground in some cases, and then popping back up back into the air. I've never seen anything quite like it. I've also never seen a tree quite that old, at least east of the Mississippi. Of course, there's the sequoias and the redwoods on the other side of the country, but the angel oak tree is something special and unique. You don't see many trees like that anywhere in the world. It is something that you really need to experience for yourself. If you ever get the chance to go to the low country, go check out the angel oak tree. We did, and we were thoroughly impressed.
Located on Johns Island near Charleston, South Carolina, it's estimated to be around 400 to 500 years old, though some estimates go even higher. It's absolutely massive, with its branches stretching out and providing shade over about 17,000 square feet. It's definitely a must-see if you're ever in the area.
This tree appears to be something right out of a Harry Potter movie or Lord of the Rings. More Lord of the Rings even than Harry Potter. This is a massive tree, and the fact that it just grows in so many different directions. You can see some places where limbs have been taken off. There's a lot of support that's been added to it. This tree could go on for several hundred more years. If you're talking about Revolutionary period history in the South, well, that's a little thin. But if you move forward into the Civil War period, well, there's a lot of history there. We were in Beaufort, South Carolina, and we visited the home of Robert Smalls. And it was exciting to learn about him as an individual, all the magnificent accomplishments that he had in his life, especially starting out as an enslaved person.
In a nutshell, Robert Smalls, who was born into slavery in Beaufort, became famous during the Civil War when he bravely commandeered a Confederate ship called the CSS Planter in 1862. He managed to sail it past Confederate defenses and delivered it to the Union Navy, which won freedom for himself, his crew, and their families. It was an incredibly heroic and ingenious act. After his heroic actions during the Civil War, Robert Smalls went on to have an incredibly impactful life. He became a successful politician, serving 5 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was a strong advocate for African American rights during Reconstruction, and he worked to improve education and civil rights for formerly enslaved people. He even bought the house in Beaufort where he had been enslaved and lived there with his family, which is such a full circle moment. The Robert Smalls House is owned by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They purchased it from the previous owners, Billy and Paul Kieserling, and it remains an important historic landmark in Beaufort.
The high schools here were named Robert Smalls High School. Then it became a junior high school. My mother and aunt graduated from Robert Smalls High School here in Beaufort.
Moving on past history, we ran into something that I find really exciting, because this is the most American thing of all time, and that is Buc-ee's. If you don't know about Buc-ee's, you need to find out about Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is a convenience store. It's a gas station. It has the largest convenience store in the United States. We went to that one specifically, and they're building another one that's going to be even larger. Buc-ee's is a perfect example of America at its best and at its finest. Americans love choice, they love opportunity, and they love to have it all just packed in one space. Buc-ee's has pumps 80 to 120. The stores range from 52,000 square feet up to 74,000 square feet. They're massive. The choice is outrageous, and they do everything inside of Buc-ee's. They sell tons of Buc-ee's gear, Buc-ee's swag. It's just so much Buc-ee's stuff. And the Buc-ee's food, they make their own pulled pork sandwiches. They make their own brisket sandwiches. They make taffy. They make tortilla shells. They make fudge. They make chicken sandwiches. I could go on all day on all the things that they make at Buc-ee's. And there's so much choice, and that's what Americans love more than anything else. They love choice. Don't give me one car, give me 10. Don't give me 10, give me 20. If you give me 20, give them to me in every different color, shape, size available. That's what America loves. And Buc-ee's represents everything that is good and the best about America. And when we left 5 years ago, Buc-ee's hadn't blown up the way it has. But now, everyone knows Buc-ee's. We know Buc-ee's. We were glad to go through as many of them as we could. I think we visited 4 or 5 different Buc-ee's. Went to Buc-ee's in Tennessee, Buc-ee's in Virginia, Buc-ee's in Georgia, Buc-ee's in Alabama. We went to Buc-ee's everywhere because Buc-ee's is now everywhere. It's all along the interstates. It's massive, it's expansive, and it is as American as it comes. While we were in Buc-ee's, we bought a shirt. Well, Blair bought a shirt. I bought a shirt too. You can see this is her Buc-ee's shirt. This is the Buc-ee's shirt if you turn around. This is the Buc-ee's shirt that she bought in Alabama. You see the Alabama on the back. Every state that you go to, Buc-ee's has a different shirt per state. And of course, you have to collect each shirt per state. If you go into a Buc-ee's in Tennessee, then you have to get the Buc-ee's Tennessee shirt. But check this out. While we were out walking around, anywhere that people saw the Buc-ee's shirt, people acknowledged her and they were like, "Hey, Buc-ee's, Buc-ee's." They were excited because Buc-ee's is a cultural phenomenon in the United States right now. So if you want to go to America and fit right in, go to Buc-ee's, buy a shirt, put it on, wear it, and everyone will think and know that not only you're American, you're one of the good ones. Buc-ee's had two other things that I've only ever seen outside of the United States. One of them is Buc-ee's had an expansive selection of jerky. I may have mentioned that before, but they had it in a way that I'd only ever seen in South Africa, where it was called biltong. And I was like, this looks like the exact same thing. The preparation looks very similar. Well, also, Buc-ee's had Candy's nuts, which they were roasting in the store. I've only ever seen that in Europe. So Buc-ee's staff is going out and finding things and bringing back some elements. And there's some new things that most Americans haven't seen yet. And that nice little element, that little change up, is one of the other things that Buc-ee's is able to add to kind of give you that flavor that you're not getting anywhere else. But the main thing I think that draws you to Buc-ee's is the expansive size of the store. They have one of the largest convenience stores in the world, if not the largest, and they're making them larger. They're getting bigger, and that is as American as it comes. So the majority of the store, everything that's sold in here is Buc-ee's brand, which means that Buc-ee's, the company, makes the majority of the money from the licensing from the products as well. So they've licensed a lot of different products, and that's what really helps them propel themselves financially. I've talked about some of the things that have changed in the United States, but I also want to talk about some things that have very much remained the same. And one of those would be, well, American friendliness. The fact that people will come up to you and just start talking to you. I mean, people you don't even know. We were out in Cypress Wetlands, which is down in South Carolina. A beautiful location with a lot of birds and wildlife there. It's just a beautiful location. If you get to go there, again, free. Just walk through it. It's really beautiful. But while we were standing there admiring the birds and all the plants and foliage around, a lady came up and she just stopped and started talking to my wife, Blair, and I. And she just asked us like where we're from and, you know, what we were doing, how we were enjoying the day. And she noticed that I scratched my leg. And she's like, oh, are you okay? And I said, well, you know, the mosquitoes have been biting me. She reached into her bag and she said, hey, try this. I use this. It's a blend of alcohol and some other perfumey things that I use to kind of keep the bugs from biting me. And she gave the spray to me and she gave it to Blair. And she just rode up on a bike, got off her bike, stopped, started talking to us, shared her ointments with us. And we talked for a few more minutes. She got back on her bike and she rode away. I will never see that woman again in my life. I didn't know her before. I'll never see her again. But that is so common in America and in American culture. Another incident happened. We were walking on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. And there was a guy there and he was talking. He had a really wonderful voice, a radio type voice. And we talked to him for a few minutes and he walked away and we, went on our way. Then 800 miles later, we were in Alabama inside of a Buc-ee's. And guess what? We saw the exact same guy. Now that part was pretty remarkable that you see someone 800 miles away. You didn't know him, because I always say you won't see these people again. America has, 360 million people in the country, so you don't expect to run into these strangers again, especially not 800 miles from where you last saw said stranger. But this case, we did see this person again, and I thought that was really funny and entertaining, because it doesn't usually work that way. But to run up on someone and see them and speak and start talking and have a conversation as though you're lifelong friends, that is as American as it is, that is American as it comes, and it is still a consistent part of American culture. Another thing that surprised me about visiting the United States this time around was the thunderstorms. Now, of course, I grew up in the U.S., been there most of my life, but I've been living here for 5 years. And the United States has aggressive weather. The UK has what I would call refined weather. Dig into that later. But the aggressive weather in the United States, specifically these thunderstorms, which came up with such aggression and such speed, it was unusual for this time of year in the U.S. to have thunderstorms that strong, but they were strong, they were aggressive. The winds was blowing, it was howling. There was a lot of tragedies going on while we were there as well over the 30 days that we were touring the United States. But almost every single day that we were there, it rained, especially after we left Washington, D.C. So I'll say the last 20 days, it rained, and these storms were aggressive. They were forceful. There was lightning, there was thunder, and I'm really unused to that because I don't experience it as much here in the UK. Here come the boys. Yeah, the boys will never forget this. Come on, let's go, come on. Come on. Where's Matthew? He must be in the house. I guess he didn't go. Let's go, let's go. Come on, get out the rain. Oh my goodness. Come on, come on. He's still holding on there, but he ain't let the bucket go. Hold on, how you gonna, he brought the bucket through the fence with him. Come on, let's go, let's go. You got it.
You got it. He gonna figure it out. Over the top. Oh, he got that bucket's empty. He could have dropped it. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on, Brayden. Come on, Brayden. All right, fellas. So, y'all catch anything?
That was something that I was really not used to, at least not anymore, and I definitely wasn't prepared for. Now, I had talked to my kids before we went to U.S. about how bad the thunderstorms could be, because I did know they were bad, but they weren't prepared for it either. So we got them out there. They were going out and they were having a good time, and they got caught in the rain in the middle of a thunderstorm. We were all in the thunderstorm, and the lightning got really close and overhead, and I went back into the house and said, hey, unplug the television, unplug everything, unplug all the electronics, because I've lost televisions that way in the United States before. The lightning doesn't have to hit your home. It just strikes really close to your home, and it could shatter everything. So the kids, they were shocked. They had never seen anything like that before. They hadn't heard of anything like that, but they quickly ran to unplug everything, and we're sitting there and we just talked, and as the storm passed, once it was over, of course we plug everything back up, turn everything back on. But for a period there, it was kind of a blackout on electronics and technology. Of course, that forced us all to talk more and to exchange more, but the kids really learned something new about the thunderstorms in the U.S. Now, while we're talking about cultural differences between the United States, or what I discovered back in the United States and some of the differences between there and here back in the UK, I definitely want to talk about, well, one that's a long-standing, and that is the fact that taxes are not included before you get to the register. Here they are. You get the VAT, everything is included. You know what you're going to pay. You get back to the U.S. and it's different. I've gotten a little unused to that, so I didn't have the proper money prepared, and several times or cases when I need to pay for stuff, it was more than I anticipated. When you don't live in that system for a very long time, you get really unused to it. U.S., come on, let's get the taxes established. You could at least put it on the placards of what things are going to cost. You know what it is going to be. You could do that. Come on. That is either an American redwood or a sequoia. Now, I think personally that this is an American redwood. You have more American redwoods growing here in the United Kingdom than you have growing back in the United States. And this is a tree amongst trees. Well, not yet. That's still a baby. These trees live to be about 2,000 years old. Some of the largest have been found of that age. But they're not growing quite as tall here as they do in the U.S. But another 100 to 300 years from now, this tree is going to be massive. It's going to be statuesque. It's going to stand far above all the other trees in the surroundings. I see them all over the UK when I go around. I see American redwoods and sequoias planted, and they will tower over everything. All you need is another 100 years or so to see them. But think about it like this. We're talking about a lot of history. When these trees were planted, the people who planted them had no idea that they'd reach to be this size. And they never saw them at the height that we see them. And we're not going to see them in our lifetime at the height that they're going to reach. Another 100 years or so, 200 to 300 years longer, that tree is going to be massive. Enjoy it when you can find them and see them. They're all over the UK. But we'll never see them as large as they're going to be unless you live a very long time. And if you do, give me the secret to that. So I've talked about a lot of things about the American South that were different and that shocked me. But there are some things that remain the same. Family remains the same as the core. The church remains the cornerstone of most of your southern communities. The family, the church, the community. It's a strong knit community. People know each other. They help each other. They protect each other. And those elements of the American South are the parts that are attractive. A lot of people don't like the South. It has a lot of history that's not very appealing to a lot of people, and I can understand that. But it has a lot of community, it has a lot of love, and it has a lot of family. So we talked about a lot of different elements of American culture that we witnessed on our 30-day tour across the U.S. But there's one other aspect that I really want to get to, and it's not as exciting or really funny or fun at all as all of the other topics. This is probably the most serious topic, and that is going to be policing in the United States. I've been living here in the UK for right at 5 years, and in that time, I have not been pulled over by the police once. I'm not claiming any sense of racism. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how the United States, especially the smaller jurisdictions, use policing, stopping people, fines and tickets as a means to create and generate revenue for their jurisdiction, which they use to pay for supplemental things, in some cases even salaries. This is all well documented across the United States. So in one day, we were stopped in Arkansas and in Tennessee, and in both cases, not speeding, not doing anything illegal, but what I call fishing expeditions by the police. The first time I was driving and we were stopped, the cop was giving someone else a ticket, and the police officer caught up with us about 20 minutes later down the road, and he pulled us over and he said, well, when you went past me, you were going too fast. Not that I was speeding, because I was definitely not speeding going past a police officer, but he felt as though it was insulting to him that I went past him, as he said, too fast. Well, I just sat there and I looked at him when he said it. He said, give me all your documentation. He took it. He came back. He said, I'm going to give you a warning. But in the state of Arkansas, when you see a police officer, you either get over, slow down, both, whatever. That's what you have to do in the state of Arkansas. And I said, aye, aye, Captain. I saluted and kind of kept going. A little frustrated, though, because I wasn't speeding, and I was like, okay. A few hours later, Blair's driving. We're in Tennessee at this point. And we're going through an area where they're working on a road. One of the whole lanes is shut off. And we get pulled over. She get pulled over. I'm in the passenger side. The cop comes up to the passenger side. He says, I'm pulling you over because you went over the fog line twice. That's the white line along the side of the road. And, you know, you're kind of being pushed off the road because there's only, you know, there's barriers in the road. And he says, do you have your documentation and proof of insurance and all those things? So we generated all of our documentation, all of our papers. We handed all that over. And he takes it and he comes back and he says, he didn't even write us anything. He's like, well, just checking on you, making sure. But these are tactics that the police use in the United States to stop people as a way to say, well, maybe, hey, hopefully they don't have an active driver's license. Maybe there's a warrant. Maybe there's something that I can kind of find. I'm on a fishing expedition, because everyone knows in the U.S. that if you're driving through certain areas, watch out for the police. But also, if you're driving through certain areas at the end of the month, and if the cops haven't gotten their quota, they're going to be more likely to pull you over. It's a known thing that everyone knows that jurisdictions use fines and tickets and fees as a way to generate revenue. I'm not going to propose a solution for that. I'm just going to state that it is what it is. And I don't like it, but it is what it is. And as someone who's lived for several years outside of the United States, I've gotten unused to it, to be stopped twice in one day. Again, I'm not going to say there was a racism issue. I will say that we were driving a very expensive car, the kind of car that if you pull them over, these would likely be the people to have money to be able to pay those fines, because you don't want to put them in jail. That's not the best thing. What you want them to do is to pay a fine. So it is what it is. Drop down in the comments. Tell me what you think about that, especially that part of it, because I feel very strongly about this. I'm keeping the majority of it to myself, but a lot of people don't like it. But that's the system in the United States. And that's one of the things that exists all across the U.S., but it is most prevalent, as documented, in the American South. Now, there is one other element of American culture that is encouraging, although dangerous. And that would be the rise of the American alligator. I mean, alligators are everywhere. And I mean that literally, especially across the South. Let me give you a perfect example. In the 1970s, the state of Louisiana had about 100,000 alligators, maybe a little more. But today, Louisiana has 2.9 million alligators just in that one state. And alligators are everywhere. We were in South Carolina at the Cypress wetlands. You couldn't throw a rock in the water without hitting a nice, cute little alligator. And they're cute at that earlier, smaller stage. When they get larger, not so much. But there are alligators everywhere. They're in Arkansas now. They're in Tennessee. There are alligators in small aquariums. The larger ones are harder to find, but you can find alligators all over the place. And then they are popular. People like the alligator. They take pictures of them. They video them. They show them off when they can find them. And unfortunately, in some cases, as in the Cypress wetlands, people feed them. But when you feed the alligators, that's dangerous because they do get big. And when they get large enough, they can attack people. They can hurt people. They can hurt people. They can hurt pets. They're dangerous. But alligators are everywhere. And it's a bit of a cultural phenom, right? Everyone loves the alligators now. It's shocking. I used to always be afraid of alligators, and I still am. I'm weary now of all water in the American South. I won't go anywhere near any ponds, lakes, or anything, running water, anything, unless I just won't go near it. Especially in South Carolina, Louisiana, all across the South. It's dangerous because there could be gators in that water. And I don't know if you can make them out. There's another little gator just sitting right there looking at me. I see a lot of snapping turtles, but there's a little gator just sitting there. Gators are dangerous. But anyways, There are a lot of alligators. People like them, they love them, and the advent, the rise of the alligator, in some ways it's really good because it means that the population is healthy, conservation has worked, there are a lot more alligators than there used to be, and that's a good thing for the alligator. I guess it's good for the ecosystems and the environments. You're finding them alligators in elements and places where they haven't been for decades, if not longer. So that aspect is good, but they're very popular right now. Alligators are, well, they're giving bald eagles a run for their money. So that's my take on the 30-day tour that my family and I had across the United States, across the American South, from DC down to South Carolina, over to Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, and all those places in between. We spent a half a day in Georgia. It was just a wonderful trip, a wonderful exploration of American Southern culture. If you have some ideas about that, drop down in the comments. Tell me what you think about what I've said here. If you notice some of those things, let me know what you think. If you like Buc-ee's or you hate Buc-ee's, let me know. What is your opinion on alligators? I have mine. Let me know yours. So if you like this content, also be sure to like and subscribe. We have a whole playlist on our channel that covers the entire trip from beginning to end, from the day we left to the day we landed back in the UK. It's all on the playlist, so go check that out as well. Like and subscribe, follow along on the channel. We'll keep going to great places, and we'd love to have you along with us. Until next time, take care.